Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Liz Camilleri, and I'm very excited to welcome you to the first episode of Trend Talks. I would like to thank my team, colleagues, and the firm's social media followers who have really supported the launch of this initiative. My team and I were really thrilled with the positive response and feedback received so far, following the release of the trailer. Joining me today for our first episode is David Valenzia, PwC's Malta Territory Senior Partner. Hi, David.
Good morning, Liz.
And thank you for joining.
Pleasure. Very exciting.
The topic of our conversation is quite vast, I must say, and surely an item of concern and priority for every business out there. The new business landscape post-pandemic and the challenges and opportunities that we are seeing. My first question is, the pandemic has accelerated numerous changes that I believe needed to happen in the business world, such as remote working, use of technology, and upskilling. Are these changes here to stay?
So, Liz, I think if we had to go back to the beginning of the pandemic, I think when it started, yes, everybody was extremely worried, extremely concerned. We were just going into the unknown. I think as time went by, I think things started to come out that really, and you could see them starting to make a difference. And you mentioned, and in your question, I think you mentioned things like remote working and technology. And I think the acceleration, both in terms of the way people have adapted to a new working life, if you like, and also in terms of this use of technology. Before this podcast, I was in a client meeting. Pre-COVID, I'd have been in my car, gone there, had the meeting, come back, got caught in traffic, probably would have been late for this podcast. The meeting was held virtually. And I think that's become almost an accepted way of doing business.
Sometimes we wonder how come we didn't used to do this before.
Yes. Sometimes we wonder how come we didn't do this before. I would also like to say, I hope it's not only going to be virtual meetings. I think the need to have physical contact, the way you develop relationships is always going to be much more powerful if you're able to have that physical contact and not only virtual. But the way the technology, I can see also in terms of the way we're interacting with other PwC offices globally. I think the interaction between PwC offices today, as a result of the pandemic, is so much stronger as compared to before the pandemic.
So, in your view, I would say the 2019 reality, we will not go back to it, and should we?
No, I don't think we'll go back, and I think a lot of the points that have been learned as a result of the pandemic are here to stay. Let me touch upon remote working. Before the pandemic, we'd be saying, people working from home, it can't work, it can't happen. It's proven that it can. Again, I'm going to stress the balance point. You can't. I think it is in our profession, it could be very dangerous if somebody is permanently working from home. The interaction with teams, the way you develop, the on-the-job training. I was telling somebody recently, the amount of learning I had in my younger days, where I'd be observing the manager and partner and the way they handle a problem. If you're there physically and you observe it, it's again a much more powerful way of learning that as compared to if you were doing it remotely. But there are a lot of advantages in terms of remote working today. Even in terms of parents, man or woman, in terms of them being able to handle both family, young kids, etc., and work, I think the flexible working gives that much more of an opportunity.
I think the key word you have mentioned is balance.
Yeah.
Finding the right balance between pre-COVID and now with the new reality we are facing.
And balance, for me, my balance is perhaps different to your balance, and everybody's individual circumstances, there's a different balance to that as well.
Very true. Linking to this different balance, what I wanted to ask is, the pandemic has brought about a lot of uncertainty. Everyone could feel it. However, and you used to mention this a lot in our meetings, beneath uncertainty lies opportunity.
Yeah.
Would you agree that every business has a unique opportunity to define now their new normal?
Yes, I think every business, every single business has been impacted by COVID. And I think the way we've approached it and the way we've advised clients to approach it as well is that the pandemic has brought on a requirement for every business to look at itself, how it's doing business, its the business, its business channels, the way it is reaching out to its customers, the type of business it carries out, how it carries it out, with who it carries it out. I think we all need to revisit that.
As you correctly mentioned, the uncertainty was also around consumer sentiment, and behavior as well, with data and market intelligence suddenly gaining tremendous relevance. Would you agree that data is the next superpower in the hands of businesses?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's the next superpower. I think it's something that has been ignored. It's been there for a long time. But I don't think all of us, probably including ourselves, have used it sufficiently to enable us to understand our business, to enable us to understand our customer sentiment, if you like. And today, as a result of the pandemic and the changes in the way consumers are interacting with businesses, it's forced us all to look at our data, to understand our data, and to see how we can use that data to better ourselves.
Okay. I must admit that I have included a couple of unplanned questions. And I'm sure that my colleagues as well would be very interested to hear what you have to say around this. During the pandemic, we have seen you leading a business of 600 people, so quite a large firm.
Yeah.
And I often wondered sort of what was your biggest worry and what gave you the energy not to give up and sort of continue facing all the challenges that were cropping up practically every day?
I think the biggest worry was the unknown. So, I remember the pandemic in Malta. There was the lockdown started, or rumors started on a Wednesday, and we went through a trial run on a Thursday in terms of testing our infrastructure, and then Friday someone said, "Okay, turn off the switch," kind of, and the switch was turned off, and okay, what happens Monday? What happens Tuesday? What happens Wednesday? And I think that was the biggest worry. I think, and it happened quickly. The way, first of all, the partner group, the manager group, the way we started to interact, we started to talk to each other, help each other. That gave me a lot of comfort, a lot of energy to move forward. We are extremely fortunate that we're part of a global organization, and we all criticize the businesses we work in. I have to say, in terms of in this, I think the PwC network really responded very, very, very correctly and properly, and there was a lot of guidance. And then with all of that, talking with partners, talking with managers and with the network, then you start to then reach out even further. And as I said, this is over a very short space of time. And one of the things we introduced in a 600 people organization was, for example, monthly calls. I was having monthly calls with every single, so different grades, all the grades. And particularly in the initial phases, when, again, there was a lot of uncertainty all over the place, you felt that, one, you're starting to make a difference with these calls. You're starting to give a bit of certainty in very uncertain times. And the feedback I was getting from everybody was so encouraging, and there was a lot of understanding. So, obviously there were measures every business had to take, including ourselves. The feedback I got, even when announcing these measures, was so positive. And understanding. Yes, of course, there were some people who may have been a bit unhappy about it, but there was understanding. And I think the way the organization came together during the first parts of COVID, I think that gave me a lot of energy to
it's true. And notwithstanding that we were working remotely, you could feel the energy of the people around you, and even the empathy and care was tremendous, sort of. Notwithstanding that it was a very challenging time, let's say it.
I mean, we were having, for example, we'd organize partner calls, virtual meetings once a week. So on a Friday, if I remember, they were on a Friday. Fine. And there'd be no agenda, but just, making sure everybody's okay, and how we're coping, and how feedback from teams and stuff like that. And, what was meant to be a half-hour meeting would always go on for an hour and an hour and a half. And sometimes there'd be late at night meetings. And anyway, you look back, like in everything, the bad things you tend to forget, and you always remember just the good thing.
So moving on now, Plato once said, necessity is the mother of invention. During the crisis, one area that has seen tremendous growth is digitization, including online customer service, the use of AI, machine learning to improve operations. In your view, how is this affecting the workforce of the future? And I sometimes wonder, at the moment, do we have the right resources and skills for these business needs? So before COVID, we had embarked on the upskilling of our people. And I suppose luck, I think the timing was just about right, because I think what has happened during COVID, as you said, I mean, the growth in again, digitization, the growth in the use of technology. I think in our business, the way clients want to see us adding value in terms of our deliverables, I think has been again tremendous. The changes have been continuous. Do we have the right resources? I think what we've recognized is that we need to expand the type of resources we have that can use these new tools, and at the same time we've also recognized the training we have to provide to our existing resources to enable them to use those tools. I think, I mean, we go through recruitment and the type of people we're recruiting more and more, whereas you go back a number of years, you'd only recruit accountants, and then we started to recruit lawyers. Now you're recruiting a variety of skill sets.
A massive variety of skill sets. And I think that is one of the most exciting things that is happening. Do we have enough? Probably not. We have a lot of opportunities, even within the network, to help on these massive, and really exciting engagements. If we had more people with those type of skill sets, I think we could do more. So I think the answer is going to be no. We never have enough. Do we have the right resources? Yes, but we need more of them.
I am aware that we have a number of students that follow us. So students, please take note, because we have a big number of opportunities, as you can hear. And in fact, I wanted to touch upon this because when I was preparing myself for this podcast, I thought about who was majorly impacted by COVID. And we often think about business, but students who were like preparing for their career. They were very excited, to go on campus and all that. Suddenly, were completely disrupted with the pandemic. What would be your message of hope to them?
No, I think my message of hope, one is that hopefully we're coming out of the worst part of the pandemic. I'm not saying COVID is going to go away, but hopefully, with the vaccination program, etc., hopefully we're coming out of the worst part of the pandemic. I think my message is that there are so many opportunities out there. I think as a students, yes, were significantly impacted. As you say, they had whole scholastic years of attending lectures from home. If you're coming now, moving into the working world, feel excited, get involved. Don't if you're able to come into the offices, meet people, start to rediscover that the beauty of physical contact and physical relationships, because I think that will always remain the most powerful way of development, of progression.
I agree. During June of this year, PwC has launched our new global strategy, the new equation. The new equation focuses on two interconnected needs: the need to build trust and to deliver sustained outcomes. Why these two needs at this particular point in time?
Okay. First of all, I think it's linked to what is happening within the world and what is happening within Malta. And it's not only COVID or pandemic related. Today's challenges are unlike anything we have experienced before. The way the business world is changing, the regulatory environment is changing, expectations are changing. And so I think in terms of PwC, these challenges require something more than what was expected of us before. If you like, the trust barometer of the business world today, because of events that have happened, again, internationally and perhaps in Malta as well, has probably never been at a lower level. So I think what a brand like PwC can do is help to bring that trust back into the business world. So I think in terms of the building of trust, that is where PwC needs to place itself, and I think that is where the opportunity of PwC lies. In terms of sustained outcomes, again, today's requirements is it's innovation or innovative, with a combination of expertise and technology, and we need to first of all bring a lot of humanity to the way we approach every opportunity. We need to bring different perspectives, and we have to be extremely objective in how we approach this. So by doing that, the type of outcomes that we are trying to deliver with our engagements need to be sustainable, need to be add more value than perhaps was originally expected of us, and we're bringing new technologies and different expertise to those engagements.
I must say that although sort of the main needs are only two, when you delve down into what lies behind them, it's a lot.
It is a lot, and I think it's something, to be fair, is what PwC has always done. What I think the strategy is trying to do is to perhaps define better, and perhaps as well adapt the PwC brand to today's realities, because I think that is what is required. PwC is an extremely strong brand, has built up this strength over many years. And there's the point about trust, and we need to be so protective of that is very, very important.
It's a very bold message,
Very good.
in my view, but it's also like we always say, we want to solve society's most important problems.
Correct.
So it fits perfectly well in there. Before we started, I told you that once we start, this is going to finish in a flash.
Yes, you did.
And in fact, we have came like to the concluding comments.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, what would be the takeaway points from this conversation?
No, I think my takeaway points would be, we've spent the last 15 odd months in a very difficult, uncertain time. But when you now look back and you also look forward, you should realize that there has been significant change, which have brought about significant challenges. I like to say that wherever there is a challenge, there is an opportunity. And what we are trying to do at PwC, and my advice to every business, to every person, we mentioned students, to students, is that in all of this, seek that opportunity. Because there are a lot of opportunities, and today, as a result of what we've been through, I believe the world, if you like, is a smaller place. So we have opportunities if we look for them, if we are capable, and I believe in Malta we are extremely capable and very capable. I think if we do that, I think we can do extremely, extremely well. I think there's another point, however. It can't only be about business. It can't only be about profitability. We have to be responsible, both businesses and people. I think we need to protect the environment as well. I think that is something that I think is really, really starting to come to the fore. It probably has been there, but even more so today. And I think we also should be responsible to give back to society, to those perhaps less fortunate than us. I think these values, the values of caring and empathy today, are so much more relevant. And I think this last 15 months has really emphasized that.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your messages. It has been a very positive first episode, I must say. And also thank you to our listeners for tuning in.
Thank you very, very, very much, Liz.
Tune in 2 weeks' time for our second episode, which shall focus on upskilling for the future.